Hey everyone, welcome to our Memorial Day video from Extension that we wanted to share with y'all. We wanted to take a minute and talk a little bit about things that go along with Memorial Day. But before we get started with that, we wanted to make sure and remind y'all to take some time as we approach Memorial Day weekend this weekend and remember the reason why we have this particular holiday. Yes, it's a lot of fun to hang out with our family and our friends and to have cookouts and get out and have some fun towards the beginning of summer, but there's a reason why we have this holiday, and the reason is because there are servicemen and women who have sacrificed their lives for our freedoms and our safety. And make sure at some point this weekend that you just think about them a little bit and return some thanks for the sacrifices that they and their families have made for our freedoms that we enjoy.
Yeah, Memorial Day is a great time to take that minute to remember, but it's also a great time to gather with friends and family, socially distanced, of course, like we are today, and really kind of celebrate the kickoff to summer as well. A great way we do that is with cookouts and camping and barbecues. So today we're going to talk about some things that will help you maybe make those experiences a little better.
So everyone thinks about Memorial Day weekend as being the first summer cookout. So you're out in the yard, you're grilling, you're playing games, you're maybe getting the pool ready to enjoy for the rest of the summer. And the first thing that comes to my mind on the agriculture side is mosquitoes. Anytime you're outdoors in the summertime, especially in the evenings when it cools off a little bit, mosquitoes are a problem. So what can we do to control mosquitoes in our yard? Well, the first thing we can do is make sure that we remove any habitat that they like. We know mosquitoes breed in standing water. So remove any sources of standing water that aren't absolutely necessary. Flower pots, kids' toys laying out in the yard. Those can have small little places where water can collect, and that's a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Now, if you've got a fish pond in your yard or pet dishes that have water in them or pools and that sort of thing, those are kind of mandatory. We want to make sure we keep those. But if there's any way we can remove that standing water, that's important. Another way we can cut down on mosquitoes is to make sure that our lawn is maintained. So if we keep our lawn trimmed to a normal, manageable height, we keep our landscape trimmed up, that encourages that grass and those plants to dry out. The less moisture there is, the less chance that there are that mosquitoes can grow and develop there. Plus, it makes for a beautiful landscape when you're out enjoying your yard in the summertime. What else can we do? Of course, there are chemicals. There are all sorts of sprays that we can do for our lawn and that type of thing that will kill mosquito larvae and also prevent them from trying to grow. But a lot of people don't want to take those pesticide approaches, but there are some all-natural ways. So if you have standing bodies of water like a fish pond or that kind of thing in your lawn and you want to cut down on the likelihood that that is the source for mosquitoes, there are what we call BT mosquito dunks. And all the BT is it is a bacterium that feeds on the larvae of those mosquitoes. And I would try to say it, but we all know that I can't pronounce that. And everybody calls them BT for short because no one else can say it either. But those are perfectly safe to humans, to pets, to animals. So even if you were to, if your child were to step off in the edge of the fish pond or something, there's no danger to them if you did put a BT dunk in there. We also can plant some plants that are discouraging to mosquitoes as well. Things like lavender, eucalyptus, things that have a strong fragrance. Some herbs that produce oils and that type of thing are also discouraging to mosquitoes. Jekka, what else do we need to know about Memorial Day?
Okay, so now that we know how to get those pesky mosquitoes out of our yard, we're ready for our cookout, right? So we're going to talk about some food safety and how it pertains to cookouts, big grill events, barbecues, and even camping. So the 4 main principles of food safety: clean, separate, cook, and chill. Now these can be much more difficult when you're outside. We don't have our typical kitchen space where our refrigerator is really close to our sink and our stove. So we're going to talk about how we incorporate those in a different environment. So clean, number 1, clean. Always wash your hands and your surfaces before you begin cooking. Now, if you're going to use a grill, it's always a good idea to wipe down or clean your grill. Those wire brushes are very helpful, but sometimes they can leave bristles on the grill, and we don't want those in our food. We don't want to ingest those.
Definitely
so after we clean our grill, bad news. So after we clean our grill, it's a good idea to wipe it down with a moist towel or washcloth and just make sure we have cleaned our surface thoroughly, and we're ready to cook. So number 2, separate. So we want to avoid cross-contamination at all costs. So we're typically pretty good about separating things at the grocery store and our grocery cart, putting meats in different bags than vegetables. So we also want to do that in our refrigerator and in coolers. So if you're packing a cooler for the weekend, a camping trip, or a big barbecue, you want to make sure that we separate those so that juices can't spill over into fresh food or other foods in our cooler. Now, clean plate rule. We never want to put cooked food back on a plate that has had raw food on it. So it can be really tempting to take your burgers, put them on the grill, and then just put them right back on that plate, especially if you don't have your sink handy. But number 1 rule we do not want to do. That invites bacteria and harmful germs into our bodies on our food. So we want to clean our plates and also toss out marinades or sauces that may have been marinating raw food. We don't want to put those back on our cooked food as well. So when we cook our food, we always want to use a thermometer because color does not indicate doneness.
Definitely not.
No, we want to make sure that we cook our foods to a safe temperature. So we know those. We can easily read a thermometer. 145 is the temperature for whole cuts of beef, pork, or lamb. And 145 is also the temperature for fish. 160 is the temperature that we want to reach when we cook burgers or other ground meat. And 165 is what we want to get to when we are preparing chicken or poultry or cooked meats like hot dogs. So if you're going to use a smoker and you have that, we want to keep that temperature to 225 to 300 degrees throughout the cooking process to ensure that our food stays at a safe temperature. Now, after we've cooked our food, if you're not ready to serve it as soon as it comes off the grill, you want to hold it at 140 or higher to keep that at a safe temperature so bacteria doesn't start to grow before serving. So after we've cooked our food and we're ready to eat, number 4, chill and store. So food should not be left out for more than 2 hours after it has been cooked. So if it's 90 degrees or hotter outside, that time shrinks down to 1 hour. So if food has been left out for more than 1 hour on a really hot day or more than 2 hours on an average day, we want to discard that. We don't want to keep that because bacteria has had a chance to grow and it can be very harmful for our bodies. So if we have only left our food out for a little bit and we have leftovers, we can store that in an airtight container with a lid. You can put that back in your cooler, but again, we want to make sure that that's separated from any raw food. Some CDC recommendations on coolers: use a separate cooler for food and drinks. It's more likely that you'll be opening your drink cooler more often than your food cooler, so we want to make sure that the temperature stays a constant cold temperature. We can keep that by not opening as much. So we want to use a lot of ice or freezer packs to maintain that constant cool temperature for long periods of time. We want to keep our cooler out of the sunlight because that can heat it up and melt our ice quickly and we can lose our cool temperature. So these are some food safety tips that hopefully help you in your next barbecue or cookout.
That was really informative, Jessica, and I think that has a lot of tips that everyone can use not only this Memorial Day weekend but throughout the summer as well. And it made me think of one more tip and trick that I forgot on my mosquito section. A lot of times when we're having those cookouts, maybe we aren't quite ready yet, but we need some control for a large gathering and that type of thing. There are foggers for mosquito control that we can set off in our yard, and a lot of people are familiar with that or using citronella candles and that type of thing, but typically those will only last for a few hours. So a lot of the control methods I mentioned earlier were longer term control methods, but if you are having a large gathering and we for sure don't want mosquitoes being welcome at our table over Memorial Day, maybe some of those intense but short-lived control methods might be something to consider as well.
Great tips. Well, I hope this is helpful for you. I hope that you enjoy your Memorial Day weekend and, of course, stay socially distanced and healthy.
Come see us anytime. If you've got questions, our contact information is on our Facebook page. Feel free to reach out to us. Bye, guys.